Not every landing goes as planned. Some end in disaster, others push pilots to their limits, and in the next few minutes, you're going to witness some of the worst landing fails ever recorded. Engine failures, brake failures, emergency landings, and terrifying crashes, all caught on camera. And this first one, it's brutal. During an airshow landing, this historic T-6 Texan suddenly lost control. A broken tailwheel spring caused the aircraft to swerve violently, nearly flipping over. The pilot fought against the spin, trying to keep the aircraft stable. Eventually, it came to a stop, but not before giving spectators a heart-stopping moment. A DHL Boeing 757 suffered a hydraulic failure mid-flight, forcing an emergency landing in Costa Rica. As the aircraft touched down, it veered off the runway, skidding uncontrollably before breaking in half. A cloud of smoke and debris filled the air, making it look like a disaster, but miraculously, both pilots walked away unharmed.
Uy, madre santa, man. Uy, man. Carepicha, man.
Just before touchdown, this Boeing 777 unexpectedly started gaining altitude again. The pilots had to make a split-second decision: go around or get the plane down immediately. They chose the second option, slamming it into the runway with a hard impact. The entire aircraft shuddered on contact, but somehow they managed to keep it from bouncing back into the air. An F-15 suffered a hydraulic failure, meaning no brakes. With no way to stop, the pilot had to rely on an emergency arrestor cable. The jet roared down the runway, and the hook had just one chance to catch. As the cable snapped tight, the fighter jerked to an abrupt stop, saving it from a dangerous overrun. An engine failure forced this Airbus A340 to dump fuel and return for an emergency landing. With only one engine running, stopping the plane was much harder than usual. The pilots carefully balanced the aircraft as it touched down, using only one engine for reverse thrust. The landing was rough, but thanks to their skill, the aircraft came to a safe stop. Flaps are crucial for slowing a plane down before landing, but this Airbus A340 had none. Coming in way too fast, the pilots had to rely on every bit of runway to stop. The brakes screeched as the jet fought to slow down, barely coming to a halt before running out of pavement. Without quick thinking, this could have ended very differently. Strong crosswinds rocked this Boeing 737 as it approached the runway. Just before landing, a sudden gust forced the plane to tilt dangerously, almost causing a wing strike. The pilots struggled against the turbulence, barely keeping the aircraft steady. At the last second, they managed to touch down safely, avoiding what could have been a disaster. During a routine landing, this Cessna 180 suddenly spun out of control. A ground loop sent it skidding sideways, nearly flipping the small aircraft. The force of the spin was so strong that the aircraft's landing gear barely held together. Luckily, the pilot managed to regain control before disaster struck. With its nose gear stuck, this Embraer 190 had no choice but to land without it. The pilots kept the nose up as long as possible, delaying the inevitable. Finally, the aircraft's nose scraped against the runway, sending sparks flying as it slid to a halt. Despite the terrifying scene, everyone on board made it out safely. In Amsterdam, this Boeing 747 came down hard. The impact sent shockwaves through the aircraft, making the massive jet bounce slightly before settling onto the runway. Passengers inside felt the full force of the landing, but despite the jarring touchdown, the aircraft remained intact. A Royal Malaysian Air Force Beechcraft B-200T faced a terrifying landing emergency after experiencing a critical malfunction mid-flight. As the aircraft descended, the pilots struggled to maintain control, but the situation worsened upon touchdown. The plane veered dangerously, skidding across the runway before coming to a violent halt. Smoke and debris filled the air, creating a chaotic scene. Miraculously, the crew survived, escaping what could have been a devastating disaster. And those were some of the craziest landing fails ever caught on camera. Each one a reminder that landing a plane isn't as easy as it looks. Want more unbelievable aviation moments? Check out my other videos and don't forget to subscribe.